Okay. Everyone see each other? We're all set? Okay. So this is kind of an interesting experience, I think. Generally, we have openings for our exhibits and we're looking at each other and we're looking at the art, but obviously COVID came up, so we're trying to make the best. My name's Bob Foster. I'm the director at the Hoboken Museum, and joined by Rand Hoppe, who's our collections manager on the upper left.
That's me.
And then we have Peter Mecca on the left, one of our photographers, and his brother Jack Mecca. And basically, we have an upper gallery in the museum. So when people get to visit the museum, they can experience two things. One, our main gallery downstairs, and generally the upper gallery, which are art exhibits, which could be photography. And we like the work to be Hoboken centric, as we say. It's not always, but in this case, we have the perfect photography exhibit that will be up until the 19th, that's Sunday. So hopefully this discussion will whet your appetite and you'll come see the real photographs. We're open every day except for Monday. And so I'm gonna open this up to both Peter and Jack. And Peter, why don't you introduce yourself first? Give us a little background, how you got involved in photography, and it's all yours.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, my name is Pete Mecca. Well, my family we're all from Hoboken. Most of my family, our family, lived in Hoboken. I did not live in Hoboken, but they babysat me enough. I'll tell you that much. And you know, we have a long connection on both sides of my family to Hoboken. And Jack and I would go down there many times and mostly go to get a salami and mutz down at Fiore's, and that was a big trip for us. And then we sort of decided, I believe in 1978, we were just starting sort of like our photography career. Excuse me. We said, you know, there's you know, they're starting to gentrify here, and I think we should just try and document the Hoboken that we know, or we knew at the time. So that's what we did, and it went from 1978 off and on till real whenever Frank Sinatra died. That was the last picture I took, 1998.
1995, I think.
95, yeah. I went down to St. Anne's there, yeah. So, you know, and actually it was the beginning of my brother and I being working as a team, freelance. We were freelance, and I don't think there were any other brother teams out at that time. So,
right. I've never met a duo brother photography team. Jack, could you talk about how that worked?
Well, usually the good-looking one, me, led the way, but that's a joke.
Thank you.
We forgot to put our laugh track in.
Okay. My brother got me involved. We all got involved, and we would shoot together and go on jobs. We basically started shooting sports in the beginning, New York Rangers, and a lot of work for the New York Rangers. And, you know, our family led our way into the Hoboken part of it. And, you know, my grandfather had a club down there. Our grandfather had a club down there. We were there every weekend and for feasts and funerals, all of it. And like Peter said, we thought that at the end of the 70s, it was right. Hoboken was really kind of like on the downswing. But we saw it coming back, and we just started taking the opportunity to go there for lunch. And, oh, by the way, let's shoot.
Yeah.
So it really was, and get more involved in the Feast of St. Anne, or the construction, the demolition, all of it. But my brother and I would generally document. We did more essays and editorial. Our pictures have been in pretty much every magazine you can name: Time and Life, Newsweek, Sports Illustrated. Done books. We've done a lot of different things, but Hoboken was more of a passion-driven assignment that we gave ourselves.
Yeah.
We're glad you picked Hoboken. I'm dying to ask, would you eat at Fiore's first and then photograph?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes.
Well, it depends
It
on.
It
depends
was
on
a combo.
the combo.
Go
But a
ahead.
lot of times, we would go down there early in the day or late in the evening when the light was really good. But like if you went to Fiore's and St. Anne's Feast was going on, that would have been midday also.
So like any good photographer, you're sort of chasing the light, and then you would
Yeah.
Right.
and then you would reward yourself with good food.
Well, right next to Fiore's was the original Carlos.
Yep.
Back then, so we would double reward ourselves with a lobster tail, and but like you said, we'd go down early in the morning, late in the afternoon, or if there was some kind of news event going on that we thought, would be appropriate to shoot.
Right. One of the things we really liked about your pictures was the fact that they were in color. And we do have a lot of photographers were attracted to Hoboken in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but most of them would choose to probably photograph in black and white. They had their own darkroom, they liked that control, but you guys did slides, obviously in color. Can you talk about your choice of medium? And obviously you're shooting in film. A lot of people don't even, if you tell people, oh, the originals are on slide, they don't even know what you're talking about. So could you talk about your medium?
Jack, I'm not sure I don't remember how we did that, but I would think that it was maybe to, and I happen to love black and white work. I do a lot of it now, but maybe we didn't feel like developing all the film. So we figured we'd put it on Kodachrome and save ourselves a little bit of effort. You still have to edit it all, and it's not easy, but the Kodachrome worked out really fine. And I think we used mostly Kodachrome, as I recall.
Yeah. And Peter hit the nail right on the head. I don't think we wanted to develop it, but let me tell you, in the dark room, Peter was, I want to say master, but his black and white printing is phenomenal. I wasn't as much of a dark room guy as Peter was. And Kodachrome just the color, the saturation just adds to everything. So, we love shooting Kodachrome when we could.
It was a funny time because magazines were really starting to shoot a lot more color, in the late 70s. And we had to keep up with that also. If we were going to go around and shoot black and white, and, people might not have used it, maybe just in People magazine or something like that. But we got really we were pretty good with the Kodachrome. We had a number of jobs for the magazines like Geo and Life magazine that we had to shoot color. After that, actually. Was that after that? Yeah, that was after that. So, we got comfortable with Kodachrome. Plus, the lab was right a few miles away from where we live in Bergen County. It was in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. So it was It was easy. It was easy to get it developed,
And
we knew the Kodak lab very well. Take my word for it.
So would you
very, very well.
Would you mail it in, or you'd show up in Fair Lawn?
No, well, it would be a lot of different ways. I mean, I would bring it up and pick it up, but then somebody might hire us. Like we were doing a story on the demolition of a family that goes around blowing up buildings, and there were deadlines, and it was for this magazine called Geo, and they would send somebody down, and they'd get the film from us in Dallas or wherever we were shooting, and they'd fly back and bring it up there to get it processed so they could edit it right away. Kodachrome can only be done at the labs, at the Kodak labs. They couldn't be done in the Time Life building, like they could do Ektachrome or Tri-X.
Right, as I remember. Oops, sorry. I remember Ektachrome.
If you brought it up to Fair One, you got.
Go ahead.
If you brought it up to Fair One, you got it the next day. So It was perfect, and that was an expedited service. That wasn't like an extra charge or anything. So it worked out great.
It's funny, I'm just getting an email or a text on my phone from Jerry Fallow, who is your cousin, right? And
It's my wife's cousin, yes.
Your wife's cousin, and she's saying, what time are we doing this? And I'm trying to text it now. And I just I just did the invisible ink thing on my message, which doesn't help. So I'm just going to reach out to her and just sort of a shout out to Jerry, thanking her for connecting you guys to us. Because it seems like
Jerry.
It seems like we should have connected years ago, but it's never too late, and that's really good. So your photographs, could you talk about, did you pose shots or would you photograph from a distance?
Well, we very rarely would tell people how to pose. I mean, that's not the way we both were brought up. Now, if there might have been a couple of portraits in there that we knew the people would prefer it that way, like the one of the family in front of one of the brownstones there. I was down at the feast and they said, look, we all lived in this building and we all grew up in this building. I said, you want to get together as a group? And that is one of the few times I would do a portrait like that.
Right.
Well, but most of the time it was, and the only other thing about the photography that we did there, and I really, I feel seriously about it even today, is that, you know, the people knew we were taking photographs. You know, we weren't hiding or anything like that. So they knew what we were doing, and if they didn't want us on the scene or whatever scene it was, we respected that at all times. And I'm a retired teacher of 25 years now too, and I always tell the kids that I don't want to hear about you going out there and hiding behind anything. Just tell the people you're there, and that's it.
And are there any photographers you would say are your role models? The 70s is a pretty serious photography time period, from Eugene Smith to, you know, Elliot Erwitt and people like that. Do you think any of them influenced you?
Oh, sure. You know, I mean, I started shooting. You know, I'm a few years older than Jack, and we both shared a mentor. His name was Mel DiGiacomo. And it goes back to the days down in the courts and all this stuff. And he would take an interest in people. And one day, and he had a job at CBS, and he came back. He was like a hero. He was working at CBS. He was a producer over there. And he came back one day, and he came down to number 6 school where we all hung out playing basketball. And he was sitting there, and everybody was saying, how you doing? He says, I quit CBS. I'm a photographer now. And that shocked us. It just shocked us because, you know, he was already famous for us, and he just decided to go out and take photographs, and he quit his job at CBS. And I'll be honest with you, he helped Jack out a lot. He helped me out a lot. And we were his assistants for a few years, right, Jack? We were his assistants.
Used to stay at his house and develop film and take care of things and carry it. Many days I carried his bag and loaded film, and that's how I learned, you know, going out on jobs with him. And
I worked in his darkroom. That's where I learned how to do darkroom. I mean, before I met Mel, I mean, I never took a photograph in my life. I mean,
me neither.
We didn't come from that. You know.
No, me neither. You know.
How old are you when you got introduced to photography?
I would say I was about 21.
Same thing with me, 22.
Yeah, I mean, I had been made.
You know, Mel used to like take you out on a job.
Yeah.
He'd call you up and say, "I'm in a job." You go as an assistant. You know, it was not getting any money, but you couldn't pay for the education you got.
No.
You couldn't pay for the people you're being exposed to and situations. I mean, from the NYRA, the Racing Association, to the Rangers, to the Knicks, to, you know, everything and anything. And, you know, it was an experience that people would have given their arm to get, and you can't get an internship like that.
I would say he was very influential on both our lives. And I think, and I have a little blog connected to my website, and I'm in the middle of saying, talking about the importance of mentors. And for sure, a guy like Mel was definitely a mentor to me. The other thing that happened when I first started seeing Mel again, and he was living in Weehawken in his big house. He had all these photography books, these big books, you know, all the great photographers. And I you know, I've always you
Started looking at them.
show me a book, and I'll be looking at it. So, but then I saw oh geez,
Minamata, Eugene Smith,
Jay
Jay
I
Mizell.
really loved the work of Bresson, Henri Cartier-Bresson. And, I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world, just to walk around with a Leica and take pictures on the street, that kind of stuff. So when I start walking again, I'm going to be doing it again. So
Right.
got to get rid of the cane, though,
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And so you really felt that photography opened up a new world for you, right? You sort of like a respect and the power of carrying a camera.
Not so much the power, but the way you use the camera. But for both of us, we didn't quite grow up what you would call rich. So I mean, there was never cameras around. I wouldn't. But at the time, I was majoring in communication arts at Seton Hall, but I thought I was going to make movies. I was shooting on 8mm cameras and stuff like that. And after I met Mel. And I saw how he showed us how to use, aperture and all that kind of stuff. I really liked it, and I liked the idea of doing what we knew best. And at that time, what Jack and I knew best was sports. And I remember reading somewhere that you write or you do whatever you know about best. And at that time, we both knew sports very well. I was very involved in sports, and just the fact that he would take us. What, Jack?
Also, my brother would have been my mentor. Thank you, Cecilia. That's my granddaughter. Peter was my mentor, and what I didn't learn from Mel, I learned from Peter. And I got to say, Peter, with his communications degree, back when nobody knew what cable was. Peter was the first operations manager of Hoboken, North Bergen cable television. And he had a studio in the Round Building in North Bergen, and myself and another gentleman by the name of Patrick Capone, we would go around and do shoot news on Super 8. And I remember shooting the news for Capiello's wedding and election. And Peter's in the control room taking care of it. It gave me an opportunity where, I learned a lot of things that I wouldn't have known. And so he's really been visually, into visual stuff, and he did a great job with that. And nobody knew what cable was back then in the 70s. This was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Bringing cable and bringing cable into trying to get people to understand what cable was.
Yeah,
there was a gentleman.
I like to say when I started working at the cable TV, it was right when I first graduated. It was my first big people's job. I had my first big job. I did it for 2 years, and again, and I hope you get to see some of Mel's work when this is all done. I worked very hard for 2 years. My brother was working with me there also. We weren't shooting then, but. I put in a lot of time, and I said, look, I'm going on my honeymoon. I'm getting married, so I'm arranging that everybody will take care of everything for 2 weeks. And I went to Portugal and Spain with my wife, who was my other mentor. And I took my first good photographs on my honeymoon because my wife gave me a Nicomat that Mel said he found somewhere. So.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, his name is Melchior Di Giacomo. If you want to look it up. And Mel, to this day, he's older, had a lot of surgery on his hips, but he's still out shooting.
Oh, yeah,
he's out every day doing something. He's an amazing man.
I recently reconnected with him, and I made a film of some of his work and stuff. I like putting this stuff together on film, too, because that's all from the... from my training in Seton Hall and stuff like that.
Right. So I'm dying to ask, what happened to Steve Capiello's wedding footage?
No, it wasn't wedding. It was his election.
His election. I misheard. Sorry.
His election. No, you didn't hear. I said wedding.
Okay.
But
okay.
It was his election. Like we did stuff like that. Local. The idea of cable television in the beginning was local
Right.
programming. We did
Sure.
local news.
Oh, yeah.
We did bingo shows. We had Chuck Wepner up for an interview. We've had, we did a lot of cool things that nobody saw because there was no subscription. But we had a beautiful studio.
The only thing that they had to do that when they established cable.
Part of the contract.
You had to do local origination.
It's like public access.
Yeah.
Local.
Exactly.
The whole thing was about the Knicks and the Rangers feed. It was the first time.
Yeah, that's where the money was. But
that's where the money was.
So
well, I used to sit
again,
I used to sit up in the round building.
Sure.
With commercials and Knicks games and Ranger games.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, is that footage anywhere? That early cable footage of local stuff?
Well, I don't know.
So.
I don't think that stuff is not. I don't know where it is.
That's a shame.
I told you. I said, look, I'm setting this all up. So I came back, and after 2 weeks on my honeymoon, I got to my office. I looked at the magazine, of all the stuff, and there was my job being offered to other people. So I guess I left, and I just walked out.
Wow.
And that's when I had to start going into photography because,
okay.
That's when Jack started with me also.
Gotcha.
So I lost my big people's job. That's the way
Okay. Someone hit delete on all that footage.
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds, you're whetting our appetite though. That's the archive in us that we want to go look for it. So you're saying, okay. So Rand, do you want to look at some images?
Yeah, let me share my screen here, and we can start going through the.
And again, it's great to have you to comment about them, but we really want you people to come visit the museum and see these images.
Right.
Okay, well, let me just say something about this because a funny thing happened. I put this up on Facebook today and explained, what good job you guys did for us and how it's going to be in another year. And some of the people, actually, a young man who I teach with got on and said, I used to play stickball there too.
That's great. All right, so that's just the the title card, but
with dates that don't quite sync.
That's right.
Okay.
But we're just going through the exhibit. The first 18 slides here are the 18 images that are on the wall in the museum.
Right. That looks good.
Yeah.
So one of the things that came out of shooting sports is you got used to using long lenses, 300s and 600s, and this is a shot I'm pretty sure Peter took, and you can see that it's compressed like that because he probably used a 600 millimeter lens, and not a lot of people use those kind of lenses except for sports photographers, and we used a lot of long lenses because we liked the way it compresses and brought people into the picture. So that's why this picture is like that. I'm guessing, but this is definitely shot with a 600.
I would think so.
I would say.
Yeah, I mean the street sign says Clinton and Newark on it, so yeah, that's pretty compressed.
So that's downtown.
Yeah.
But it like you're saying, Jack, it looks like the Empire State Building is like 50 feet away.
Right there.
And I expect to see King Kong and coming over the top of that building in the background.
I have to tell you, King Kong was an important thing, but just this past fireworks, the fireworks on July 4th, watching them do the fireworks from the Empire State Building was really amazing.
Yeah.
That was something to see. This would be another 600.
Yeah. 15th
Absolutely.
Street.
From up in Jersey City.
Yeah.
Probably up in Jersey City. That's the U.S. testing building in front.
Right.
So you can't really take
not Willow.
You can't really get this effect of compression with a cell phone, can you? Yeah.
No.
Well, you know what? On the new ones, I got the thing on my new cell phone. I have the telephoto lens on it. You're not going to get that, but I've gotten some really tight stuff on it.
It's
not like that because you're not controlling the aperture and everything.
Right.
So you
can zoom in. You can zoom in on the new cell phones, but I don't think it compresses like that.
Not quite like this, though.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Well, you need light also. Now that's a like Jack did this. This would be like a 24 or something like that. A wide angle.
Yes, that was a wide angle.
Right.
24.
And a lot of members of
That's
our
the
family
museum.
have been out of there.
Right.
That's the museum, basically.
That's a
basically where the
stone's
museum is.
right. That's a stone's throw from where I'm sitting. That's 14th Street. You can see the Empire State Building in the background. So obviously we're looking east, and that was the home of Bethlehem Steel, which is featured in a lot of your photographs. We see the cranes, which had a distinctive green paint and a logo. So it kind of helped us identify, because there were a few shipyards in Hoboken, but that would have been the active one during your days. And a lot of people...
The other one was Todd.
That's correct, yeah. A lot of people talk about if you were driving down 14th Street going east towards the river, it looked like you were going to drive right into the hull of a ship. I mean, it like was really... It wasn't that close, but those ships are like 5 or 6 stories high, so they'd be kind of looming. That looks more like a lower tanker, but it was pretty interesting.
It's amazing to me if you're going down the turnpike now and you see where they all come in now.
Yes.
The amount of train stuff and everything, how they even got this stuff into the Hudson River at this time.
Right.
They can only get 1 or 2 boats in at a time, I would think. So.
Right. Well, ultimately, all that stuff moved to Port Newark just because the ships were so big, and containers and where do you store them and things like that. So that's really what changed Hoboken. Okay.
So this is a shot that this wouldn't be a 600, but probably a 300. But this was part of the gentrification story. This is when they were starting to empty out some of the buildings. I won't use any other terms about it, but and if you saw the film that I made, I dissolve into what happened to this place after they fixed it up.
Right.
It looks nice and everything, but you see a kid like this with the light, and the light is really always important. So I mean,
And that's kind of a Henry Cartier-Bresson moment. Both feet are off the ground, and the basketball is like a balloon. It's beautiful.
Except that Bresson would have been standing where that thing is, this carriage is. He would have been shooting with a 35 millimeter lens. I think I was shooting with a 180 or something like that.
That's true. That's true. And any idea where this is, Rand? Do you have some sense?
Isn't it on Bloomfield between Observer and Newark?
Yeah, it's in that area.
Between Observer and it's definitely Observer and Newark.
Yeah.
Right. We have a lot of pictures of this block in black and white.
Right.
And the lot in the foreground, seems to was sort of like a play area for kids. And it shows up in a lot of photographers' work. But again, of course, yours is the only one in color. And I don't really remember the basketball setup on it looks like it's an old telephone pole, right?
It looks like it was just put up by somebody,
Right, but like a utility pole that broke down or whatever. I mean, it's quite a timber for sure, but it's wood. I love this shot. You couldn't, this shot, that open lot is not there anymore. There's a big 12-story building and, definitely a different type of residence and architecture. But these were the old tenements in Hoboken that we have obviously been condoized and changed over.
They were working on this one. Sure.
Right.
Jerry Fellow typed into the chat room, guys, and says hello. So.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Jerry. Tell Jerry your Jack said hello.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
There's our...
I think this might be my favorite picture.
Bare-ass Pete's, right?
Mine too.
I mean, this is one of Peter's shots, and, it sums up Hoboken, what it was in that day, it's just, it's a great shot.
But you
Great shot.
know what?
The best part is
Go ahead, Jack.
The best part is if you look closely, these guys are swimming in their underwear and they're all muddy. I mean, you got to see. I mean, the Hudson River wasn't that clean.
Right.
But these guys are swimming in their underwear and they're muddy. But they're having a ball.
They made it. They dragged the tire on. They put a piece of lumber on it. They have a diving board. They did that.
Yeah.
You know.
It's the one kid wearing a shower cap. I think so. Standing
Yeah.
on the big tire.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know about splinters or anything, but you know,
Right,
no,
right.
it's, you know, but it's something the way we worked. You know, we were both working together. I'll tell you, it was very hard for two people to make a living for each other. You know, I mean, because you know, you get at that time if you did a job, it was like $150. You know, for a whole day's work basically. But you know, so my brother would probably be driving a truck someplace working. I might be doing something else. And a lot of times it would be, you know, I would get bored, and so would he, and I just would drive down to Hoboken, and you know, that's how you get things done. You know, it made me feel that I was doing something, and meanwhile, I wouldn't have minded somebody sending me out on a job or something. You know.
Right. So I
And
looked
the
at
piers
this.
were all burned.
What's that?
The piers were all burned out at that time. There was
That's right.
Frank Sinatra Drive wasn't Frank Sinatra Drive.
That's
It
right.
was all burned out.
Well,
All burned out.
We used to take
People lived in houseboats.
here. We used to take us. We would go pick up our salami and mutts, and we'd go sit on one of these piers and eat.
Yeah.
So I've looked at this picture a couple of times, and it just occurred to me: where are you guys standing? I see the shore in the background. Are you on a boat?
I think I was probably on another thing that was jutting out. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I did it. I wasn't in a boat, believe me.
Well, back then,
Okay.
I can't swim, so you know.
Right.
Yeah, but back then nothing was fenced off.
No.
Then
Oh, I
in the
know,
80s,
but-
they started fencing off so you could walk right out on these burned out piers.
I see the shoreline in the
Go right out
background.
there.
I see the shoreline in the background. I saw another image in your slideshow that shows that in the background is Maxwell Coffee Plant.
Right.
And so this is sort of
Union Dry Dock stuff.
this is kind of the land which is associated with Union Dry Dock,
Yeah.
which was bought by New York Waterways, and now is supposedly going back to the city. If they have any money left after all of this, who knows? But anyway, so that spit of land changes, and this area is kind of wouldn't this be right where the boathouse is?
Yeah,
And
those
where they go kayaking.
those
and they
boulders
brought
back
in,
there.
Yeah, they brought in a lot of sand to sort of recreate a beach. And so you would call it Bare Ass Beach.
That's right.
And, kids learned how to swim, and these were abandoned piers. And like you said, kids are having a great time. And it's a great shot. It's kids in summer, and that's where you'd hang out. And it was obviously, it's probably in the summer, July, August, and that's how you'd cool down. I love that picture.
Thank you.
That's a
A lot
great
of
picture.
interesting
That's
body
really good.
language. Yeah.
And this reminds me of On the Waterfront. I mean, so many of them remind me of On the Waterfront. But this is another 600. Just I don't know. And nowadays, none of these people know what Hoboken really was. I mean, they can't. It was a commercial city. I mean, it was a big port.
But everybody knew each other. I mean, everybody knew each other. Walk down the street and stuff. So, I mean,
that's 3 or 4 streets of houses. I mean, it's crazy. That's crazy to look at.
Yeah, I think that looked like that's Willow, and the roof of Fox Hill is right there on the lower right, on the But it's amazing how flat it is to have Manhattan just be so compressed like that and so
Right.
upfront.
That's your favorite telephoto lens.
Well, we paid for it, so you got to use it. You know?
That's right.
The sports paid for it, but you got to use it in Hoboken.
That's right.
And you see a Bethlehem steel crane there, number 3 on the far right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that's going to be Bethlehem steel. The northern part would be 14th Street, and it pretty much went up to 12th. So that's got to be between those 2 blocks.
Yeah.
On Willow, and that's it.
On the Little League field.
Some thoughts?
That's like a 135. You have to remember that at this time we're doing a lot of sports photography, and we are using a lot of lenses, a lot of long lenses. So we had them with us all the time, you know. So
Yeah.
And then with those long lenses, your depth of field would be very narrow, but it looks like you really worked hard to shoot a fairly small aperture, so pretty much everything would be sharp.
yeah, you have to work. You have to work like that.
Right.
And the fence is like really close, but it blurred out because of, you know, the depth of field issues. But I just love the kids' gesture. And the color is really beautiful, those funky Hoboken Little League field graphics.
It's all about light, you know, it's all about getting down for the light and doing
Right.
it.
Right. And, you know, yeah. So you're definitely pulled back here. Tell us about this photo.
Yeah, well, we're up on top of somebody's roof.
Yeah, Marine View Plaza, I think.
Jack was doing this.
Yeah, Grand View Plaza, yeah.
Yeah.
At sunset.
Yeah.
You know, it's when the light was right, dusk. You know, it's nice.
That's
Good,
real,
you know.
I forgot about that.
So
Sorkin's Business Supply.
yeah, I see.
That's Washington Avenue, yeah.
Yeah, Dainty Cotton.
The Queen's store, which was like furniture on the
That's right.
right.
Yeah.
And behind that, I guess our images are there, but I remember seeing Barron's
Drug is all lit up, yeah.
And we can see the tree canopy effect from Church Square Park. You see Demarest in the foreground.
Yeah, well, I played basketball in Demarest in high school.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
And, I hung out at whatever the basketball court that was behind there.
Right. Frank Sinatra didn't graduate from that school, but did attend for a short
Not high
period.
school.
Right.
But well, my mother and father didn't make it either. But it was an interesting place. You know, it was for us. You know, we've spent a lot of time there. You know, I was still right before all this was done. I was working for the cable, and I was in Hoboken a lot working for the cable. And I came home one day. I was just married, and I said, Joanne, you know, these brownstones, they're beautiful. You know, I think we ought to buy one. She said, well, how much are they? I said, I think $150,000 or something. She says, well, she started probably less than that. She started laughing at me. Are you kidding? I mean, you know.
Yeah.
We made a mistake.
And at that point, the government was giving you 0% loans.
That's
they
right.
were looking, you know, because
Right.
everything was getting burned up and down, and they wanted people to buy them. I did the same thing with my wife, and you know, now they're ridiculous. You know, they're just beautiful. They're beautiful structures, you know, and you know,
Well, it's
we weren't at the point in our lives that.
It's a well laid out city.
Yeah.
It works that way. It's really nice. And you know, I mean, it's changed, but it's still Hoboken. Again, the lens, huh?
Yeah.
All about the light. So just I'll make a few comments about the sign, just because we know where it is. So this is a sign that really faced New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
we can read it, Hoboken welcomes industry. And that was on top of the what we call the Hudson Tea Building, which was originally one of its earlier uses was for the Lipton Tea Building. But like a lot of the big signs that we had for Hoboken, like even the Last Drop sign from Maxwell Coffee, was really meant to be seen by the river. Do you remember this sign, Rand?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Right. Yeah.
I don't ever remember it saying Hoboken welcomes industry. I moved here in the early 80s, and by then it was like HOBEN.
Oh.
Well, you know, the letters had fallen down.
That's possible. Yeah, okay.
So this is one of the first images I've seen in color, obviously, and has the entire sign. But it was always kind of a joke from my time period of the 80s that, you know, it wasn't that welcoming because it didn't have all the letters.
Right.
But, on there. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Key punch school.
Just a great combination of the LTD and the bilingual.
Yeah, the LTD. And the elbow to the right.
That's right. That's right.
That's an elbow on the right there.
Uh-huh.
Pretty cool. Two pretty cool cars there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those 70 cars, right?
That's right across from where the Clambrot house was.
That's right.
Yeah, the post office, the main post office is to the left. I think it's a real estate office at the Key Punch School. And that's the original Hoboken Land and Improvement Building, which was the development company associated with the Stevens family.
Wow.
And a beautiful building underneath all that. But the idea of a bilingual key punch school, just, who remembers key punch? Not too much.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it is. I think I remember.
Yeah, it's just placed in its time with the cars and the key punch and everything. Right. It's really
Rand, do you remember what key punch is? They're like, aren't they these cards that you kind of like before computers?
It was before tape, before computer tape. You would type your program into a hollerith card, and it would be like put little holes in the card, and the program would run.
Jazz.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. I was going to get there.
They had a little notch on the corner.
Yeah.
And you could feed it into a machine, and it would, I don't know.
It would perform the program. And heaven forbid if you wrote your program and you had like a 6-inch stack of your cards, and then you tripped and they went all over the place. You'd never be able to put it back together again. So.
Right. So at this school, you could. You would learn how to do it bilingually, I guess.
Yeah, how to do the typing. Yeah.
Okay. Very strange. Very strange. But, one of the all-time favorite shots, too.
Yeah.
I'll let someone else, Jack or Peter, comment.
There was a lot of, everybody knows that there was some problems with fires and stuff like that. Now, I don't know. I think this building was under... it was getting prepared for demolition or change anyway. Okay. And so I don't know who put the sign up there, but this guy he looked comfortable to me. I don't know. And and that's something that you as far as photography is concerned, you got to let the person know you're there. I mean, not say, can I do this, but just stand there. And,
So in this situation, you would ask permission?
No, I would never ask permission because I don't want to change the way the people are situated. But I wouldn't hide myself from them either. I'd be standing probably.
They knew you were there.
Yeah, and if they didn't want to.
And the good thing is they told people there's no molesting.
Yeah.
And he's hanging out, and it says no loitering. It's perfect.
No loitering.
And it does say please, and it does say thank you.
That's right.
From a color point of view, it really worked out well.
Oh, it's really good. And I think this is 729 Willow.
I thought it was right there too. I'm going to go home and look tonight.
All right.
Home
yeah.
And take a before and after.
But the texture of the picture, and not just the obvious, but the texture of the door and with the brick, and it's just pretty cool.
No, it's great.
But the obvious jumps out at you.
Yeah.
That's true. You made your point there. Okay.
All right. Next up, the sisters.
I love her and them too.
Yeah, and I think you were telling me that this might have been the building that Dorothea Lange grew up in.
I'm not sure if I said that. I don't think. If I said that, I misspoke.
That's another shot of the kid on the bike. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
With the yellow
awnings.
Yeah, with the yellow awnings. Yeah.
Which I'm not sure if we have in the exhibit, actually.
No, we don't have it in the exhibit, but it is here in this file.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I love this shot because, this is old Hoboken. And, I can just hear these two women talking to each other. And I'm assuming they're sisters. And if you got a chance to go into their house, it would be like a time warp going inside. And they'd invite you in for tea and, whatever. And one of my goals from even doing this tonight was that someone would recognize these two women and we'd get to know a bit of a backstory. But that would be, I know that's kind of fantasy, but I'm dying to know who these women are.
You know, Bob, it's so funny, but we'll have this up on YouTube as far as I'm concerned forever, and it just might show up at some point.
That is one of the beauties of technology,
Yeah.
How many people you can reach. It's a great job. Oh,
Yeah.
Here's the lead shot. It's on, I guess, on Clinton Street or?
Yes, it's between 9th and 10th on Clinton.
I remember this
looking west.
I was always taken by this because the Demorest High School and Hoboken High School is right near, actually Hoboken High School.
Right.
But I had an aunt who lived directly across the street, and they used to babysit me all the time, and I remember I'd be running around in there too. So it was a good place to play stickball.
Yeah.
It's just the composition is right on. I mean, you have this kind of symmetrical background, the architecture of this pavilion, which you would never associate with baseball. I mean, it's very classical. I guess you would say Italian. And then you have these kids all kind of symmetrical also, as baseball is laid out symmetrical in a diamond. I just love the composition. And, the idea that kids will, just like the kids who are swimming down by the river, you just make fun wherever it is. You don't need a lot. And here they are. They don't have a regular baseball field to play. They're using, in front of this pavilion, which was originally set up, if you look at really old pictures, as a pond, which later got, ripped out.
Right.
And sort of planting beds, but obviously no one's really, dealing with making a garden here. It's a play area, and in a city with so many kids, you need places for recreation, which Hoboken didn't really have enough of. So they're happy here, as if they were on a regular baseball diamond.
Yep. Yeah, well, it's a good picture. Thanks.
It is really good.
And anyone want to talk about Columbus statues? Oh, okay, we moved on. It's okay, let's move on.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Okay. That'll become our Hoboken Monuments Zoom talk another time.
Oh, man.
Okay. Ready for that one, Rand?
Yep, I am.
Okay, I think we got to do it.
All right.
Okay, where are we?
Well, I know why I was there, because of Geraldine Ferraro. So I happened to, I went down to the press conferences. I don't know what they were, I don't know what, people were, protesting about, but I wanted to get a picture of Geraldine Ferraro. That's why I went down there.
You know what? I originally read this picture all wrong because I was at another rally around that time when Reagan came to visit St. Anne's with Sinatra. But clearly this is for Mondale and Ferraro, so I mixed up my rallies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
No, I think you're right. I'm reading the signs better now than when I looked at the print. What do you think, Rand?
Well, I was with you because of Reagan getting mentioned on a few of the signs, so I just kind of eased right into that suggestion.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I was at rallies for Reagan and Sinatra came to St. Anne's, which would have been just right around the corner, right? July 20th to the 26th, but obviously COVID has knocked it out. But anyway, it was a big rally, and the people who were rallying were anti-Reagan and anti-Sinatra in a way. I don't know if more anti-Reagan.
More Reagan, it would be more.
Yeah, right, but this looks, I don't think this is by St. Anne's.
I don't think it is either.
I can't place it.
I really don't.
I can't place it either.
I don't know.
I'm looking up top here. It might have been where there's a construction.
Yeah.
Like a trailer, some concrete bricks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. So I don't even remember Ferraro coming. Did she come to Hoboken, Peter? You remember?
I remember. I remember that. I'm trying to figure out pictures of her. I don't know if it's Hoboken or it might have been in Journal Square at the time too, but it's hard for me to remember. I don't.
Right. It looks like we're not in Journal Square here.
No, this is Hoboken. This is Hoboken.
Right. And did Mondale come to Hoboken? I don't think so.
That I don't know. I did. Yeah. By this time, I was working for Dutch television as a news producer.
Gotcha.
I might have been down there with my crew. You know, that now that I think about it, that's probably what we were doing.
Okay. And yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll have to do a little research.
The upper right corner, that like green.
Looks like the high school.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm kind of latching on to, is that
Right.
might help identify it.
I mean, it does look like Hoboken in the background.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally.
But
does, yeah.
I think I had the wrong rally.
Right.
Sorry
Right.
about that.
Yeah, so it's still a great shot.
Actually, I did get a text from David, who's listening in, David Chittum, and it says, could be the back parking lot of St. Anne's. He could be right. Could be right.
Could be.
Many years ago.
Hey, there we go.
Okay, let's eat.
Yeah.
Jack and I both like to eat. But, Jack tended to make friends with these guys really fast. So they were good guys down there. I mean, the thing about it, and Jack took this picture. I love this picture.
I love this picture too. Good one, Jack.
Yeah, it's great.
And
nicely done.
Thank you.
The great thing about Hoboken then is you just put the car, double park it. The firemen are all over the place, policemen online. It was just, and nobody would get tickets because it was Fiore's, you know.
Fiore's.
So.
Yeah.
And actually you'd have to, we would stop at Lisa's Bakery, and they had fresh bread coming out at about 11:30, you know, crusty bread, and you'd get a loaf there, and then you bring it in here, and you give it to them, salami, mutz, vinegar, pep, Thursday, mutz and
Roast
meat.
beef.
Yeah, roast beef with the gravy. Yeah.
Thursday and Saturday.
That's right.
We still know the days. That's pretty good.
There's always, everybody was friendly. It was just you meet so many different people down there. It was, and
I think that one of these guys passed. I'm not sure. One's alive. I don't think it's in the store, but it might be one of them. Who's the guy who makes mozzarella now is 86 years old and still makes mozzarella every day. And there's another guy, Johnny, who's 85, who's there every day.
Yep.
And I gave them the posters and stuff. I mean, it's just wild. It's just crazy. There's two of the patriarchs still there.
The thing about this is, I mean, it's really good color.
It's beautiful.
It's good. There's
really
no
great.
flash.
Fluorescent lighting.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Fluorescent lighting is not bad.
No,
And it's spur of the moment.
Best sandwich I ever had. I used to drive down and bring them home for people up in Bergen County. It's easy.
Right. No, his expression is good. Okay.
And I'm sorry. I just, all I know is I was doing pictures of St. Anne, the feast, and I would go down there, and I would go nearly for 4 years in a row. I'd go down there, and a lot of these people didn't live there anymore, but they all grew up in this building, and I don't know their name, but they invited me to the side where they kept the vino, and they had it down in the cellar, and they had a little garden in the back over here somewhere, and they just say, yeah, have a glass of vino, you know, and they were just nice people. So it's one of the few times I ever asked people to pose, and if I was a good reporter, I would have got their name, you know.
I think the best part of this picture.
What?
I think the best part of this picture are the two people in the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, that's Hoboken.
Yeah.
Everybody was leaning out the window. I mean, the picture's
Right.
perfect, but those two people in the window are great.
And down here, this may be a living quarter, or it might have been a little store. I'm not sure. But, my grandfather lived on Clinton Street, and this would have been my grandmother as I would come up the stairs, Rose.
Mm-hmm. To the right.
It would be on the right-hand side. And she'd be on the pillow. She hardly spoke English, and she'd call me Pietro. and it was really nice. He was always at
And the ravioli.
Yeah,
and the ravioli was drying on the bed.
That's right.
On the bed, I love
On
it.
the bed, okay.
But my
Yeah, well, you had the kitchen, you had the kitchen, the
grandfather's
bedroom, and the living room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
You know, railroad rooms.
My grandfather's club would have been right next to it. It was, and you know, my brother would go, and they gave us both a hard time because we looked Irish. You know?
Yeah, and the ravioli was drying on the bed.
That's right.
On the bed, I love
On
it.
the bed, okay.
But my
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
guys, I'm so sorry.
The kitchen, the bedroom, and the living room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
You know, railroad rooms.
My grandfather.
Sorry about that, guys.
Right.
Yeah, it was. It reminded me of visiting my grandfather and grandmother when I was a kid. So.
It's funny, I should have looked it up, but we did get the word of what family this is.
That's why I'm having the challenges I'm having. I'm
Okay.
looking it up.
A
The
couple-
Costa.
Yeah, the Costa family, and I believe some still live in town. It's, you know, some might be working for police or fire.
Well, if we could, if anybody wants prints and we can make them, we'll do it for them.
Right.
That would be the thing.
So you're looking at the school to the left. That's the edge of the school. And where are we? 7th and Jefferson or 7th and Adams? You know, right around the corner
7th
from
and
St.
Adams,
Anne's.
It wasn't far from St. Anne's.
Yeah, 7th
Yeah.
and Adams.
Yeah.
And guys, you mentioned that was it grandparents on both sides that had clubs in town?
No, just the Italian side.
Okay, and so was that your traditional social club or?
Yeah, my grandfather had a full social club. The boys be playing bridge, drinking vino, and the one thing I remembered about him, and I started, you know, I used to always go to my grandfather's place, was when the city was changing. You know, people were moving out to the suburbs, and I won't say they were fleeing, but they were moving out to the suburbs. But I used to go in there. Used to be a whole bunch of Italian guys, and I wouldn't go for a year or so, and then I go down again. And one day when I got down there was a whole bunch of, there was my grandfather and a bunch of Spanish guys, and they were playing. They weren't playing cards. They were, what's that? They used cubes and
Dominoes?
something like dominoes. And I said, what's going on here? And I asked my grandfather. I said, what happened? He said, hey, everybody, they leave Hoboken. You know, but people got to live too. So, you know, he changed. You know, it was like he said, yeah, they got to have fun too. So I was really happy to see that.
So you're saying he kind of decided to play the Spanish game?
Yeah, because they all moved to Bergen
Mr.
County.
P.
Okay.
Everybody in the neighborhood called him Mr. P.
That was my
Because
grandfather.
he was good to everybody. You know, my grandfather. And the thing I remember the most, one of the things I wish I could recreate is when you went into the club, there was all the Italian guys smoked the Ginobili cigars, which stunk. And there was a potbelly stove.
Oh, yeah.
And he kept a pot of hot water with orange rinds. And the smell that came off of that, between him making macaroni in the back and the orange rinds, it was it was something you can't forget.
Yeah.
And there was one guy who had a hot dog stand. And tell me if I'm wrong, Peter, but the guy had a wooden leg.
Yeah,
Remember that guy? The guy used to take the wooden leg off and bang it on the table.
But actually,
the funniest thing.
We would visit them in the older place, and my father would bring my brother and I down to his car, and there was a guy selling ice, vanilla ice, lemon ice, and we
Yum ice.
Yum yums, and we always got one for that. That was good.
Yeah, it was right behind St. Mary's, the Yum ice place.
That's right.
I guess we got a few more photos, but I love the history of smells of Hoboken.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
that's great. It's the one thing you can't capture in a photograph is smells, right?
Exactly.
But it lingers.
I think this is right
Is
on.
this Willow?
This is on Washington.
Washington? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those stores are all long gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the background. And again, we have this shot by many other photographers in black and white, but never in color.
Yeah.
And and these trucks used to
Everyday life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were what? Probably at least half a dozen vendors up until the 80s who still sold fruit around town, and it was really cheap. You could get a lot of stuff for $10. I mean, unbelievable. It definitely wasn't shopping at Whole Foods. And
Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
I'm up in Windham, New York, which is right near Catskill, New York. And my big trip, especially with a bad leg, my wife takes me for a ride. We go across the Hudson, 2-3 miles. We find a farm. We have a farm stand that we get all this stuff at. And these people would be bringing it in. But you got to drive to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But they would actually drive the truck around with this slanted back, and then if you were following it, there'd be tomatoes bump. If they hit a bump, there'd be people picking up the tomatoes that fell off the back.
I would assume that people were picking at it all the time.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but and once again, go back to sounds and smells. The best part of those guys was them yelling out, tomatoes, whatever. They had their own lingo.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest thing to listen to. You had to know what the hell they were talking about. But that was like the best part about it.
So, Jack, can you remember one of their yells?
No, I can't. I really can't. But they had lingo. They had their own talk.
Right.
It was funny.
One of our good friends at the museum. Why am I spacing on Dominic's last name? Dominic. Oh, he's going to kill me. But anyway, Dominic worked for the Ferrenti brothers, and when Dominic comes into the museum, he starts yelling "Tripe, tripe, tripe," and you can't stop him. He just gets into it like he's yodeling. It's so much fun. But people
like yodeling.
But people coming to the museum just think, "What's going on?" Because they don't know.
There was a way of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because you used to have that guy, then you used to have the guy that came around sharpening knives. Remember him? And then you had a guy who would bring you oil, cans of oil and cheese. There was the peddlers that came to the houses and brought cheese and oil.
That's right.
And stuff like that. Like and then you had people who would bring you clothes. Like it was a different world.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It really was one big.
It kind of sounds like pickup delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might be back to that. We might be back to that now.
That's right.
It's Dominic Percantino.
How are you, Dominic?
Right? Bob Percantino?
Dominic Percantino.
There is a Dominic. I'm sorry. Yeah. Keep going.
All right.
So I guess this would have been Elysian Field, maybe? Or...
we weren't really able to locate it.
Right. I mean, Elysian Fields
this could have been a replica of some sort, but
it's a painting.
The clothes are too modern.
Right. We don't know if it was a park. It looks like it doesn't look like someone's backyard.
No.
It's got cobblestone laid, and they're all standing on a bench, and then someone painted a mural. So
couldn't be Court Street because it's cobblestone, could it?
No, it's not a street. It's like you can see it's in the
like a
middle
little pocket park.
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering if it was the park by, across from Wallace School by Dean Marchetto's office, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So there.
I think that's the 18.
Okay. So this is
just more of the rest of the collection.
Right. Right.
We can find that one we were talking about.
Okay. Oh, I like how it's set up. So you're looking for this guy, yeah.
Yeah, but the one that they used was he was in flight.
Oh.
I thought we had it too. Sort of like that.
Maybe I didn't scan it.
No, he would have gone the other way. Maybe go down one more. Go. That's it. No, down.
That one?
No, he's coming. You have to go back down.
Oh.
Keep going. Go ahead. It would be right after this, maybe.
Right after that. Oh, okay. I gotcha. Yeah. I guess I didn't scan that one. That's great.
Yeah, it was
Really.
mid-flight. No, I don't know if you. We don't know if you have it.
Yeah, I don't think I
that
have
one
it.
went to
That's
the
our conundrum.
Times. We're talking about that one of Peter's images was used in the Times on Saturday, kind of like a retro summer in the city kind of feel.
Yeah.
And it was.
They claim they found them in the archive.
Okay. So it's probably one from that series, but we don't have it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So we're going to sort of wrap it up. Bill Curran, one of our museum folks who works here, really good artist, he was asking which cameras did you use? So we got the sense of the type of lenses. Of course, camera is just a tool, but did you favor a particular camera?
We used only Nikon.
Nikons.
Right.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned the Nikkormat before, which was...
It started with a Nikkormat. We worked our way up to many Nikons and many motor drives and
Right.
any kind. I don't even know where we got the money for it, to be honest with you. But this also was a time in New York in the late '70s, early '80s, where there were we would go to 47th Street Photo for all our stuff, and you would bicker for film and this and that. If there was anything wrong with the equipment, we would always go, what was it, Marty Forscher's, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Marty Forscher.
Marty Forscher, yeah, he did everybody's repairs.
And
he
took
did the
care of all
Time Life repairs.
Yeah. It was, and then, if you were working for Time Life, you were up and down to their lab, and they were developing and printing everything there too. It was a good time.
And borrow equipment.
Yeah, borrowed equipment, everything. It was really a good time. There's Jack's shot right there.
Yeah, that's the one that was the residence originally of Dorothea Lange, who noted photographer who did a lot of socially concerned work.
There was a good exhibit of hers that I saw online that they did recently. It looked really nice.
Yeah, they're still promoting it online at the Museum of Modern Art. Unfortunately, they don't mention in the exhibit once that she was born and raised here in Hoboken.
Well, I'm doing a thing on my blog about. Well, I'm putting that movie up, and I'm putting some of these pictures up at some point. But I'm going to go into Dorothea Lange and Stieglitz also. They both came from Hoboken.
Sure.
We've had a few people in the chat room talking about laying pasta on the bed with their grandmothers.
Cool. Cool.
They would lay it out, put a sheet down, and later, because they would do it with a shot glass.
Right.
They would turn a shot glass, and that would, everybody did it differently. But you can remember the macaroni was sitting there on the bed waiting, for Sunday.
I'm sort of missing the shot glass thing. How does that work?
That's how they made the ravioli.
Yeah, you would put
that would be the ravioli.
The glass would go upside down on a sheet of dough, and you'd cut it out.
Oh, okay. It makes the form. I got it.
The cookie cutter was the shot glass.
Now they use a cookie cutter, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that way, Dad wouldn't do shots.
Well, I don't know if that stopped anybody from not doing shots.
Okay.
I can't believe the amount of. Oh, geez, I forgot about all that.
I like the sign here for the Hoboken Shore Railroad.
Not a public thoroughfare.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting shot just because of how much the waterfront has changed.
Yeah.
And so that is down by, it's a little north of Sinatra Park, I guess,
right.
but not much.
Yeah.
And it just shows how you had a cyclone fence, which I think had wire on the top so you wouldn't hop it. And you just didn't get, that would be before Sinatra Drive in a sense.
Right.
And so you had no access to the waterfront unless someone had cut the fence for you and you could go through it. And,
but before that, you could sit out on the barges.
Right.
Back in the 70s, that was, that's where that one shot came from. You could go out there and nobody would bother you,
Sure.
You just had to be careful you didn't step on something that collapsed.
Right. And that's where they used to hold the River City Fair and events like that in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And people would talk about if you went down there to hang out, it really, you know, you didn't have access to the waterfront, sure. And that's where people would go to sort of practice driving, things like that,
Right.
you know, because no one would go down there that
Right.
much. So
Yeah,
it's
well,
pretty interesting.
it's a beautiful city now. So it was a beautiful city then,
Right.
and it's a beautiful city now. And things change. That's how things all change. I mean, you know, if you don't, if new people don't come in, look what happened in Hoboken, Brooklyn, and Queens. Queens, I guess, is the new epicenter now. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's I was very happy to do this for my brother and I. Were both very happy to do it. We're very proud of our families that came from Hoboken. We understand some of them had a really tough time. It wasn't easy for them for a long, long time, and they took care of their kids one way or another. They took care of their kids, and I don't want to get on my wagon here. So.
Yeah, but
I
the one thing I
appreciate
want to say is, I just want to say one thing. I'm glad Jerry introduced us to you, Bob. You guys did a great job. We appreciate everything you did, and you know, supporting us and getting our name out there. And you guys did a great job. You and Rand and everybody in the museum, and both Peter and myself want to thank you. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much for everything you did.
It's been great for us, and it's, you know, having those pictures there have been, you know, I'm at the museum every day, and I run upstairs and take a look, and I'm just so glad that we, you know, are showing them. I wish more people were seeing them, but hopefully this program, with it being archived and with your words and giving context, will, you know, create an awareness more for your photographs. So.
I hope so too, and I appreciate everything everybody's done for us. And if I get a chance, I'll be home for about 3 or 4 days next week. Maybe I can get down there somehow. But somebody's got to drive. I'm not allowed to drive, so.
Sure.
Right.
Let me know, and I'll try to order a Mutz sandwich, and we can have a half of a half, because we're all eating a little more carefully these days.
Well, it's really been my pleasure, Brand. It's the first time I met you. Thank you for everything you've done. And
my pleasure.
I'm gonna go eat my pesto now.
All right.
Okay.
That sounds good.
No ravioli
Have a good
on
night,
the bed.
guys.
All right, guys.
We'll see
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
everyone for all your chats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now. Sure.